Hi, and welcome back to Unit 6, No Vax, No Visa. So we've been talking about Novak Djokovic, again, the Serbian tennis player, and the issue these days is that he is very much against vaccines and vaccine mandates in particular for athletes.
Mandate.
Mandate. And this became an issue when he tried to travel recently to Australia to the Australian Open in January of 2022. He has already had COVID twice, and one of those times was right before in December of 2021. But Australia has a very strict immigration policy regarding COVID and vaccines, and they require all people entering the country to be vaccinated, unless they have a medical exemption.
Exemption.
Exemption. And Djokovic thought that since he had already recovered twice from COVID-19, that he would be exempt due to his natural immunity from having the disease. But Australia decided, basically after he'd already arrived, to revoke his visa and not allow him to come into the country to play in the Australian Open. And he appealed, and it was very complicated. And at the time that this article was written, he was still being detained in Australia and not allowed into the country, but not going home because he was still trying to get into the country.
Detain.
Detain. And you can find out more about that if you search on the internet. Just Google it. He's currently playing in Dubai, apparently, when we're making this video. So he has been let into other countries, but Australia was maybe a bit of an exception to that.
Yeah.
So speaking of Djokovic and his beliefs and his status as a very important and prominent figure in sports, do you think that athletes are good role models?
Years ago I thought yes,
Okay.
or that they were important role models, and caveat on important, not good.
Okay.
I'm gonna focus on that word. Now, honestly, I did kind of personally disagree with that notion, because, you know, I don't think they should be role models, but the reality is they are to many people. Notion.
Notion.
And many young people, men or young girls, young boys, to motivate them, inspire them to achieve something. And, you know, they are in some ways off the court or on court, basketball lingo. They are going to be role models for what they do, what they say, how they act. People will watch that. And unfortunately, that's just a byproduct of it. But what do you think?
I basically agree with you. So I think when we were growing up, I'm assuming that we're around the same age, I think that when we were growing up, they were mostly seen on the court or on the field. And so they were, you know, not bad role models. They worked hard. They were, you know, good at their sports. And you didn't necessarily hear them speak or think about what they were like in their personal lives. So back in the day, you know, maybe they were good role models. But these days, they certainly are role models, but not always, in my opinion, for the right reasons. And you hear a lot more about, you know, their private personal opinions and whether they've been getting vaccinations, and they're tweeting, and they're doing interviews, and they're on TV, you know, TV news 24/7. So you get to know a lot more about these athletes and their personal ideas and beliefs, and those become, you know, kind of a role model for some people. And, you know, whether you agree or disagree with that person, there are always people who will agree and take that as, you know, my favorite athlete says I should not get a vaccine, or my favorite athlete says I should get a vaccine. And people really do follow what they're saying. So I think it's important for athletes to be careful about what they're putting out into the world.
You know, and I'm not saying that it should dominate their entire life choice of like reacting out of fear, but they should understand that, you know, there should be some prudence in what they say, because everyone, like you said, watches what they share, click, and post, and comment, everything like that now, and it can be taken out of context as it is so often.
Yeah, so I think it's really changed the ways in which an
Right.
athlete is a role model. Before it was always
Their life
on
is
the field.
24/7 now in front of everybody.
Right, and now it's what they write, it's what they say, it's all of these things. So it's a really complicated issue.
It is.
Okay, and that's all for Unit 6, No Vax, No Visa. We'll see you in the next video.